What's up, draft nerds? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we are going to be going through my first round mock after week 9 of the 2025 NFL season, 2026 mock. So, this was on a separate note, this was an unbelievable week of football that isn't even done yet. I'm currently recording this Sunday night during the Sunday night football game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Commanders. This has been an incredible week of football. I mean, I feel like the last couple of weeks we've kind of had some duds. I feel like almost every single game was, a banger or closer than we really expected. So a nice week of games leads us into a very nice week of speculation yet again for the upcoming 2026 NFL draft. But before we get into this mock draft today, if you enjoy content like this, if you enjoy any type of NFL content, any type of draft content, pick them for the NFL, pick them for college football. I upload every single day at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 days a week. Don't miss a single day. And it's some of the best draft content that you will get on the platform. We are closing in on 700 subs. I'd love to get to 1,000 before the end of 2025. So with your help, that could certainly be possible. Without further delay, let's get into the mock draft today. Mock draft Monday for some of you who will be watching it. We have the New Orleans Saints at number 1. Obviously, I did not mention, as I usually do at the beginning of the video, this is the up to the minute draft order. So we have the New Orleans Saints at number 1 overall here. I think I've seen everything that I need to see out of Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. I mean, Shuck, in the first half just really wasn't impactful at all until like the last 7 seconds of the first half. And then the Saints were just completely anemic in the second half. I think this is the time to blow it up right before the trade deadline. Alvin Kamara needs to be traded. Keep Chris Olave because, he's basically your number 1 option. Him and Rashid Shaheed are a really nice 1-2. You got to get a true franchise quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler it still has plenty of value for this team. If at the very most, he's a high level backup that can start a good amount of games for you and probably win you some of those games with good pieces around him. But it's time to get a franchise caliber quarterback here at number 1 overall. We're not going to be doing any trades in this video. Either last week I did it with trades. This one will be without trades. But we're going to go with Ty Simpson here. I think Simpson offers, I think the consensus, or at least my consensus, is I have Ty Simpson as my number 1 quarterback, with Fernando Mendoza not being too far behind. I think Simpson offers the highest ceiling ratio to day 1 impact. Like, I feel like Ty Simpson isn't going to get in there and he's going to be like Cam Ward, where, you really don't see it in terms of production in year 1, but as he goes on, obviously he will get better and better. I think Ty Simpson is very capable of running an NFL offense right now from day 1, and he's only going to get better. At the time that the college football season has commenced, he'll still have most likely less than 20 starts to his name at the college football level, but he showed an immense amount of poise and some great potential at the position. I think he's very, very fitting of that number 1 overall pick, regardless of who lands there. If it's the Saints, if it's the Jets, maybe even the Browns at that point, that'll be a quarterback that I'm definitely comfortable taking at number 1 overall. And in this instance, it is going to be the New Orleans Saints here, Ty Simpson. At number 2 overall, there's a couple of different ways that you can go for the Tennessee Titans. I'm not opposed to drafting a wide receiver in the top 3 here. I don't know. I think Jordan Tyson is awesome, and I think he's probably a number 1 receiver on a few different NFL teams. I don't know if he steps in and he's a wide receiver number 1 on most teams. And really, that's the type of wide receiver that I would be drafting at number 2 overall. I don't remember the last time a wide receiver has gone number 2 overall. It has to be, if Calvin Johnson went number 2 overall, that was probably the last time we saw a wide receiver go that high, I would say. Yes, and unless that Jordan Tyson is Calvin Johnson, I really just don't see it. So I'm going to go with the edge here. I'm going to go with Ruben Bain Jr. Like I said in videos previously, it seems like the NFL draft community has a little bit of prospect fatigue when it comes to Ruben Bain Jr. It seems like they have softened and cooled on him quite a bit. Still a phenomenal player overall. Had a bad couple of games. It's going to happen. He's human. He's a phenomenal overall run defender. Overall, as an edge rusher, He's just outstanding. He fits in multiple defenses, odd fronts, even fronts, whatever it may be. Ruben Bain Jr. is your guy, and I still think that he is the edge one in this draft class. Moving on to number three, you have my New York Jets, and isn't it fitting that the New York Jets move back in the draft order without even playing? Like, if they were playing, they'd probably be number one overall. But the fact that they didn't win, they didn't lose this week. They were on a bye. They moved down. It's nice to see, at the back end of the top three this week, as opposed to being number one or number two. But this is not a pick that we really have to dilly dally around. If Fernando Mendoza is on the board, I think he is the obvious choice for the Jets here. I think, a lot of people, again, another player with prospect fatigue so far, and it's so early in the draft cycle. It's crazy that we have a lot of prospect fatigue this early. But I think a lot of people, especially in the Jets community, because I'm a part of that community, have really cooled on Fernando Mendoza. Like, they saw him throw a bad interception against Maryland this past Saturday, and they were like, "Oh my God, the jury's out. He's absolutely terrible." And then, led his team to a 55-10 victory. Like, what do you want from the guy? I mean, yeah, does he stare down receivers occasionally too long? Yeah, any NFL quarterback is kind of guilty of that. So if that's really what we're nitpicking at, I think it's just a little bit of prospect fatigue when it's all said and done. I think Mendoza is a really nice fit in this RPO style offense that Tanner Engstrand wants to run. And I think it's the obvious choice here if you're drafting inside the top three. I really think this is where the draft starts. I do think at this point in the draft cycle, that's any combination of those three players are going to be the top three. At number four, the Miami Dolphins secondary is just so absolutely abysmal. It doesn't make any sense for us to make any other pick than either one of the two. And for me, it's either Caleb Downs or Arvell Reese. I think Reese is such a outlier player where he's listed as a linebacker, but really I feel like you could put him anywhere on a defense and he would be fantastic. But I mean, if you just look at the secondary of the Miami Dolphins, it's a laughing stock. It really is, and it's not going to get any better through free agency, or trading or anything like that. They have some free agents in the secondary. It's just going to get worse and worse. Why not add the best possible chess piece that you can in this draft class? That being Caleb Downs. I just think it makes a lot of sense. He could play in the box. He could play single high. He could play in the slot. I mean, if you have a terrible secondary, this is literally the best player that you can get in this draft class and plug him into your defense anywhere you need him. So we're going to take Caleb Downs at number four here, especially with guys like Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson off the board. I just think it makes a lot more sense. At number five overall, you have the New York Giants, and it's not really that often that you have a team like the New York Giants who definitely have their quarterback of the future, and they're still drafting inside the top five. So I think it's time to get him a little help. I noticed, especially because the Jets didn't play this week, so I found myself watching a lot more of the Giants than I usually do. I noticed that the Giants do give up quite a bit of pressure on the offensive line. The interior of the offensive line is really not great. Right tackle could definitely be improved upon, as I've said in basically every single video up until this point of the season. But we're going to go to a different guy. I believe we usually go with Spencer Fano in here, but with the Giants now overtaking the Browns in the draft order, we still have Francis Mauigoa on the board, and that's who I'm going to take. I think Mauigoa is the best overall tackle in the class. Technically speaking, I think he's above everyone else. Athletically speaking, I'd probably give the nod to Caleb Lomu or Spencer Fano athletically. But over in the overall game and the overall versatility, the football IQ, technical ability, I think Mauigoa is as best as it gets. And that's a natural fit on the right side of that offense. If you can keep Andrew Thomas healthy, he's a top three left tackle in football when he's healthy, in my opinion. And then you have Mauigoa, who steps in and immediately becomes a pivotal part of that offensive line for the next decade, hopefully, or however long Jackson Darton and Cam Scattaboo and all those guys stick around. So I'm going to take Francis Mauigoa here to round out our top five. At number six overall, I have a really interesting decision. It's probably not going to be popular, but with the Cleveland Browns picking at number six, I'm going to forego Jordan Tyson, and I'm going to stick with the offensive line here. I think the offensive line is just, if you remember from a couple years ago, the offensive line was such an unbelievable strength of the Cleveland Browns. Now all three of the interior offensive line starters are free agents. Jack Conklin can be improved upon. Dawad Jones can be improved upon. Really, this is where it needs to start. If you're going to start building a team for a franchise quarterback, I think you have to start at the offensive line and then branch your way out. I had an argument in the comment section with quite a few Cleveland Brown fans. I'm going to stand firm on my decision to pick players around a franchise quarterback because I just don't see the Dante Moore to Cleveland working out for really anyone. And I think personally, this is the gripe that I had with the commenter as well. And in his defense, at the end of the day, he was probably right. He's saying that that's not the way that NFL teams build their team. It's you get the franchise quarterback and you draft everyone else and build the team around him. Personally, the way that I think and the way that I would like to see teams transition forward is start building the team around it. Because right now you have Dylan Gabriel, you have Shadur Sanders, you have guys that are capable of starting games for you while you build the roster around them. And the Cleveland Browns have it relatively easy. They have an elite defense. They just need to add a few pieces on the offensive side. And, this is a quarterback rich draft class in day two and day three. I don't really know how keen, outside of maybe Dante Moore still being here, I don't know how keen I would be on taking a John Mateer or a Lenora Sellers at number 6 overall. I feel like that is just a massive overdraft at this point. Why not wait until round 3 and draft someone like Darian Mensah? Or, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Or if you really want a project, wait until round 4 and draft Cole Payton. Something like that. That's what I'm getting at. And the way that I would personally draft this, and because this is my mock draft when it's all said and done, and I'm going to take Caden Proctor here. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns. You start at the left tackle position, arguably the most important position on the offense. You start with your blindside protector, Caden Proctor. As I mentioned, I was a skeptic of Proctor going into the college football season. At the beginning, I was proven right. Now he is getting better and better week in and week out. He's a phenomenal overall player, 6'7", 366 pounds. That is your anchor on the left side of the offensive line. We're going to take Caden Proctor here. And at number 7, this is where we're going to take Dante Moore. Granted, Geno Smith had a really, really strong performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That doesn't sway my opinion that Dante Moore could be the franchise signal caller for this Las Vegas Raiders team for the future. I know I believe Geno Smith signed a 3-year contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, but even better if you want to get Dante Moore acclimated to the NFL game. Geno Smith is more than capable of starting games past this year. So I think Dante Moore makes a lot of sense. This was the pick that I made last week. I'm going to make it again. At number 8, you have the Arizona Cardinals here. And I'm going to take Jordan Tyson. I just think this makes a lot of sense. Perhaps you having 2 alphas on either boundary, maybe Mekhi Lemon would make more sense here at number 8, but I can't justify taking Lemon over Jordan Tyson at this point, especially when the battle for wide receiver 2 is a lot closer than people think, where it is very close between Denzel Boston, Carnell Tate, and Mekhi Lemon. Whereas I think Jordan Tyson is far and away the wide receiver 1 at this point in time. And I think he meshes really well with Marvin Harrison Jr. Zay Jones is a free agent. Greg Dortch is a free agent. They desperately need upgrades for the wide receiver position. And Jordan Tyson is the best of the bunch. Why not go out and get the best of the bunch there? At number 9, you have the Cincinnati Bengals here, coming off of a crazy loss to the Chicago Bears. That's easily the game of the year up until this point. 47-42, what were there? 4 touchdowns scored in the last 2 minutes of the game. Just kind of unbelievable stuff there. But I think the offensive line is where we need to go. And I like Spencer Fano a lot here. I like Fano because he gives you a little bit of versatility, where I know that the last couple of years he has been playing right tackle for Utah, but he does have that left tackle experience under his belt. Again, I know it was from a couple years ago, but he has the athleticism, he has the technical ability, he has the length, he has the strength, the functional play strength. He would be just as solid on the left side as he is on the right side. And like I said, he does have that starting experience on the left side. You have Amarius Mims, who is anchored to the right side of that offensive line. You don't want to move that guy. He looks like a stud. I would put Spencer Fano back on the left side because I do think he is the best tackle that is left on the board at this point at number 9. And name of the game is you got to protect Joe Burrow. Orlando Brown is a player that definitely can be improved upon long term. At the very least, Fano offers you some really nice versatility with his frame and his athleticism. He could reduce inside if needed. I wouldn't do it, but if needed in a pinch, he definitely can play either guard position. Fano's just a really, really smart overall player and just offers a lot of offensive line versatility. At number 10, it's crazy to think adding a player like Arvell Reese to the defense of the Baltimore Ravens, but that's exactly what I'm going to wind up doing here. Peter Woods would make a lot of sense. TJ Parker would make a lot of sense too. Really, any of the edge rushers, but Arvell Reese is the Swiss Army knife. He is the outlier. He is a generational prospect, in my opinion, and the Baltimore Ravens don't pass up on players like him. And adding Arvell Reese to this defense that individually is so talented, but just they can't put it together as a unit. And I feel like they haven't been able to put it together as a unit for quite some time, despite having really, really good players. But Arvell Reese could be the straw that stirs the drink and gets this defense back up to an elite level. So we're going to take Arvell Reese here at number 10 overall. It's kind of, especially the way that my mock drafts have gone the last couple of weeks, it's kind of crazy to think that Arvell Reese has even gotten to this point. But we're going to take him here at number 10. We're going to move on to number 11. We're going to move on to the LA Rams, who have the Atlanta Falcons pick here. And I think the secondary could be improved upon and again, they're just playing with house money at this point. They don't really need a they don't need 2 first round picks. They're just making this strong roster that much stronger. But I think if you have your pick of the litter of the cornerbacks, I think you go out and you get Mansour Delaney. I've said it week in and week out. I think Delaney is the best overall corner in this draft class as of right now. He has proven it this year. He's been exceptional in man coverage, has been exceptional in zone, exceptional press. He's just a player that kind of took the transfer portal seriously, where as he was playing really good football at Virginia Tech, he said, you know what, I want to go to the SEC. I want to leave the ACC, and I want to play better competition. And he's actually gotten way better as time has gone, playing better competition. So we're going to take Mansour Delaney here at number 11. Moving on to number 12, you have the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders are a team that kind of need a little bit of Noah Brown is a free agent. After this year, Deebo Samuel is a free agent and going to be on the wrong side of 30 when the 2026 NFL season comes around. Don't know if I want to plunge long-term money into a wide receiver that already looks like he's lost a little bit of gas. I don't really know if I want to plunge $20+ million into a Deebo Samuel type of player right now. At number 12, we are going to go edge here, and we're going to take TJ Parker. The Clemson Tigers players have been a little bit difficult to evaluate so far this year because the Tigers haven't been good this year, and the defense is kind of getting torched. And some of their best players that were playing some great football last year just aren't nearly playing as well. Avion Terrell is still playing really well. Peter Woods kind of has taken a little bit of a step back. He's still playing great ball, though. And TJ Parker is a player that, in terms of pass rushing, hasn't been nearly as effective as he was last year. 10 sacks last year to the 2 at this point in the season. He has been a very, very solid run defender so far this year. So I like to see the versatility of his game, but he's still a great pass rusher, a great overall edge rusher. And this team definitely needs edge help. Offensive line could be in play here too. Like I said, a weapon could be in play. A tight end is a sneaky position to be because you have Zach Ertz, who's 35, 36 at this point. You have him who's getting up there in age. Ben Sinnott has been a non-factor since being a second round pick out of Kansas State a couple years ago. Really hasn't done anything so far for the Commanders. I think someone like a Kenyon Sadiq could be in play here very sneakily, but we're going to take TJ Parker for now. At 13 overall, this is a pick I made last week. I'm going to make it again. You have the Houston Texans, who I just saw CJ Stroud get his bell rung. I know that wasn't the offensive line's fault per se, because CJ Stroud did scramble, but my God, that guy takes way too many hits. Far too many hits that a franchise quarterback should take. Caleb Lomu is another player that I think is just really, really solid. Someone that you could plug and play on either side of the offensive line. Personally, he's been playing some really good ball on the left side of the offensive line this year. I would put him there, and I would stick Ariante Ursary back on the right side, where that was more of his natural position at the collegiate level. And then you got your bookend tackles for the future there. Ursary has, besides for a bad rep here and there, he's actually had a really, really solid rookie year because, all these people on Twitter will be quick to take a screen recording of his bad snap and be like, wow, Ariante Ursary is a really, really bad player. But then you don't look at the full picture and think, wow, that was only one or two bad snaps from a game where he was actually very, very solid. So you have to look at the whole picture when especially when you're evaluating offensive linemen. But I think Lomu fits this offensive line very, very well. At 14, you have the Dallas Cowboys, and I've mentioned it previously. I'll mention it again. The Cowboys are on a never-ending quest to improve the interior of their defensive line. In my lifetime, I don't think that I could recall a really, really disruptive interior defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. I I'm trying to think of maybe 1 or 2, and I'm just not coming up with any of them. I know I'm putting myself on the spot here, but in 29 years of life so far, I just can't think of one that pops off the pages like, "Wow, that guy was unbelievable for a really long time." And I know that I'm missing one. I know there has to be 1 or 2, that I'm just drawing a blank on, but Peter Woods is sitting here at number 14. He's in my opinion, he's one of the 3 generational prototype type players in this draft class. And I think that Jerry Jones, especially the way that we've seen him draft, especially on the interior of the defensive line. Hey, if he drafted Mozzie Smith, if Peter Woods is sitting here at number 14, you're definitely taking him. I don't care if you have Kenny Clark on your roster. We're taking Peter Woods here at number 14. At 15, do have the Minnesota Vikings here. And again, a pick that I've made over the past like 3 weeks. I'm going to make it again if Jeremiah Love is sitting. I don't even think Jeremiah Love might even make it this far, to be quite honest with you. With the way that the Houston Texans running game has gone, where it's so wishy washy week in and week out, I feel like if Jeremiah Love is sitting there at 13, I think Nick Caserio would probably be more inclined to take him than maybe an offensive lineman. But I think your running backs are only as good as your offensive linemen. So I don't think it would make sense. The offensive line, when healthy for the Minnesota Vikings, is good. It's just that they're never healthy. But when they are fully healthy, you have a very, very formidable unit. So we saw that this past week in the victory against Detroit, where everyone was basically healthy except for Ryan Kelly for the Minnesota Vikings, and they played really good ball, and they were able to protect J.J. McCarthy enough. But the run game needs to be improved upon. Aaron Jones is probably gone after this year. Jordan Mason is nice, but he's a really solid backup running back. Jeremiah Love is your bell cow that you're looking for in Minnesota. At 16, you have the Carolina Panthers here. We're going to take Keldrick Falk. It just makes too much sense. He's still on the board here. A player that I'm still waiting to see develop his pass rushing game a little bit more. Only has 2 sacks to his name so far this year, but he does have 21 hurries. He does have quite a bit of pressure under his name so far this year. So make no mistake about it, sacks do not tell the entire story for pass rushers. And he's been really great as a run defender. I think he has an above 80. Actually, we could take a look at the numbers. I keep forgetting that we click on the players and we can look. Yeah, the run defense grade around an 85, the run stop rate almost at 9%. The pass rushing will come. A 70.1 true pass set pass rush grade really isn't that bad. So the sacks, in my opinion, will come. Look at this. He's getting hurries at an appropriate amount for me to be like, yes, this player will figure it out at the NFL level. And as long as he's a strong run defender and can set the edge, he could definitely be worked on. He can improve as time goes on as a pass rusher. At 17, you have the Kansas City Chiefs here. And we're going to take Kenyon Sadiq. I think it would be so fun to add someone like Kenyon Sadiq to this team. I mean, you have Noah Gray, you have Travis Kelce. Who knows if Kelce, from a year-to-year basis at this point in his career, who knows if Travis Kelce is going to keep playing? Then that leaves you with Noah Gray as your tight end 1. And I don't think he's really half the player that Kenyon Sadiq can become, especially as a run defender and as a pass catcher. I think Sadiq, bar none, is the best tight end in this draft class, in my opinion. And I think it would just be so fun to add someone like him to a Patrick Mahomes offense that already boasts Xavier Worthy, that already boasts Rashee Rice. You could argue. I mean, if Jeremiah Love was on the board, that would be the clear-cut pick for me. But I think we're seeing the fruits of putting good receivers around Patrick Mahomes. He's still putting up elite numbers at this point. He's not even 30, or he is 30 at this point. He's not even past the age of 30 just yet. He still has like 6 or 7 years, or at this rate, the way that quarterbacks are going, he has 10 years left of his prime. I mean, you're going to have to put good players around him eventually. So Sadiq is a player that I think that could continue the lineage of strong, really good overall tight ends in Kansas City. At 18, you have the Chicago Bears here, and we're going to take an edge rusher here. I'd love to add to the interior of the defensive line. I'm not in love with any of the fits though for number 18 overall with the rest of the defensive tackles that are Peter Woods kind of separates himself from the rest. And then you have like a Caleb Banks who just hasn't been on the field since the LSU game. I don't really know what to make of that. And, the other guys are really strong, but I don't think that they really fit in the Chicago Bears defense. But they do need pass rush help. Absolutely. I mean, this defense in general just kind of needs help, but it starts with the pass rush, with disrupting the pocket of the opposing quarterback. And no one has been better at that in this college football season this year than David Bailey. He has been that guy. He has been number one. Some may argue he's a little stiff around the corner. His bend isn't elite like some of these other pass rushers in the game, like a Cassius Howell, like his battery mate, Romello Height. I can't argue with numbers. I can't argue with the numbers that he has been putting up, with the overall disruption that he causes. I can't argue with that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to try and nitpick his game. And he has gotten much better as a run defender as the season has gone on. So that was a huge talking point about David Bailey coming over from Stanford to Texas Tech. How good of a run defender can he improve to be? And I think he's been much improved. He's not terrific, but he's much improved at this point in the season. So that's enough for me to be like, yes, more than fine drafting him in the first round, and especially at number 18. At 19 here, you have the Cleveland Browns. Wide receiver is a big need here. We're going to take Mekhi Lemon. Makes just too much sense. He's still on the board here at 19. Had a little bit of a down week this past week at Nebraska. I believe he only had 2 catches for 15 yards, but that game was really weird. I feel like either passing offense really wasn't clicking or not firing on all cylinders at all. But I like Mekhi Lemon a lot. I've spoken about his late hands, his route running ability, his overall playmaking ability. He's a threat to score at any point when you put the ball in his hands, and that's what this Cleveland Browns offense needs. You have the running back. You have Quishon Judkins. You have the 2 tight ends. You have David Njoku. You have Harold Fannin Jr. You need to improve the wide receivers. Isaiah Bond could be a really, really nice wide receiver 2 or 3 down the line as an undrafted free agent. You need to establish an offense. Jerry Jeudy is going to be there for the next couple of years, barring he gets cut or traded. I think you could definitely improve upon him. And who knows, getting someone like Mekhi Lemon could definitely open up more opportunities for the drop king that is Jerry Jeudy. So we're going to take Mekhi Lemon here at number 19. At 20, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to go to wide receiver here. We're going to go with Carnell Tate. We're going to go with Will Howard's battery mate. That rhymed, and I didn't think that one through. But Carnell Tate is a player that, again, is really separating himself from the rest of the pack as that potential wide receiver too. Whereas I think Mekhi Lemon kind of fits the Cleveland Browns funky, short passing game offense a little bit better than Carnell Tate does. I mean, Tate, DK Metcalf, and Calvin Austin with a Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, it's a really nice offense for any quarterback to throw in. So for some reason, I feel like Kyler Murray is going to wind up being a Pittsburgh Steeler by next year. Let's just kind of put a pin in that one, and we'll come back to this if that does happen, because that would actually be kind of an awesome shout, especially at this point in the season. But I don't know why. Kyler Murray just seems like he's going to wind up being in black and gold at some point in his career. But give me Carnell Tate here to continue to add to this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. At number 21, you have the Detroit Lions here. And it's no secret through what we've heard through the trade rumors, through just overall the fact that some of their players just aren't living up to the hype, and free agency. The Detroit Lions have quite a few corners becoming free agents next year, and I'm not really keen on bringing any of those guys back. What I would love to do is have a healthy Terrion Arnold. You have a healthy Terrion Arnold play on the boundary. You slide DJ Reed in as the nickel corner, and then you get someone that could play the other boundary. And there's no one better on the board right now that would kind of fit in that Detroit Lions defense than Chris Johnson. I think I've been the number one fan. the number one proprietor of the Chris Johnson fan club so far. I think the San Diego State Aztecs defense is kind of unbelievable, especially for the small school that they are in terms of being a football program. And I think Trey Moore and Chris Johnson are the number one and number two reasons why they've been that good. He's a phenomenal overall player. I mean, look at these numbers. I'm just going to click look at these numbers. Unbelievable. Great performances against better programs as well. Well, maybe not Nevada, but you have Cal here. You have a good performance against Colorado State. These are good performances against better overall football programs. And I think that Chris Johnson, at the very least, if long-term play, he's someone that could play in the nickel. He could play safety as well. You can move him all along the defense, but I do think that he's a very capable boundary corner at the next level. He doesn't possess the elite overall speed, but he has great enough speed. Long speed, that's where I'm really talking about. Where will he be able to keep up with the Tyreek Hills or the Xavier Worthies of the world? Not many people can, but Chris Johnson, really, that's my only knock on his game. Really, really smart overall player. Fits into any defense, in my opinion. I think this would be a very, very interesting pick, but I would like it quite a bit. I think Chris Johnson is definitely a first round talent in this draft class. At number 22, you have the San Francisco 49ers. Myself included, I talk about the offensive line a lot. I think every single mock draft I've done this year has the San Francisco 49ers taking some type of Trent Williams long-term replacement. I'm going to go a different route here. The defensive line is in tatters at this point. You got guys like Cleveland Farrell, Yetur Gross-Matos, these like journeyman guys that were taken Cleveland Farrell was taken number 4 overall. Yetur Gross-Matos was taken in the second round. You got these like journeyman pass rushers that never lived up to the hype that are playing meaningful snaps for you. Mykel Williams has looked pretty good. Nick Bosa hopefully comes back healthy. The edge, I think, is kind of set for now. Interior of the defensive line, outside of CJ West, Alfred Collins, guys that they drafted this past year, I think you need to upgrade the interior of the defensive line. I do. I think it's a sneaky need for them long term. And there's a player that I think would fit this defensive scheme, especially so you have to understand one thing, especially as a Jet fan. I do know this firsthand. Robert Saleh likes to rotate. If he's going to be your long-term defensive coordinator in San Francisco, you got to kind of give him the personnel to play with. He likes an 8 to 9 man defensive line rotation. You need bodies on that defensive line. Caden McDonald is a player that is interesting because you don't really know how good of a player that he is, because the Ohio State defense is just unbelievable from top to bottom. So it's really kind of tough to decipher just how good of a player he is. But his numbers have been phenomenal this year. Pass rush win rate is off the chart. Run defense is really good. He's so disruptive. 6'3", 326 pounds. He's a player that you can kind of put all along the interior of that defensive line. I think it's a very intriguing pick for the San Francisco 49ers. And this is a pick that I'm going to make. I'm going to stray away from the usual picks that I make. And I think that this is a sneaky need for the 49ers here long term. At number 23, you have the Los Angeles Chargers here. And I think the interior of the offensive line is a big need. Listen, Ola Owane here is like the only player. I mean, Connor Lew was a player that I would consider a first round pick before he tore his ACL. Now, obviously not. Owane is a player that, is probably the only interior offensive lineman worthy of a first round pick. This is a really bad interior offensive line class, in my opinion. But if the Chargers can get a player of his caliber, I think he'd be awesome. I mean, look at these numbers. Pass blocking is unbelievable. By the way, in these 209 pass blocking snaps, 1 pressure so far this year. 1 pressure. Unbelievable. As a run blocker, he's not as good, but that's completely fine because he's absolutely elite as a pass blocker. And my main thing, if I'm going to draft someone like him, I want to keep Justin Herbert upright. I want to keep him pressure free, or as pressure free as I can. So Awane is going to be my pick at number 23. At 24, you have the Dallas Cowboys here. We're going to take Sonny Styles. This is the linebacking core is a real need for the Dallas Cowboys. Guys like Damone Clark, Kenneth Murray, Jack Sanborn, these guys are free agents after this year, and they are upgradable. at this point. We did get a massive upgrade with Peter Woods. I think if you can pair Peter Woods and Sonny Styles in the same first round, that is just a home run and a half for the Dallas Cowboys. And Sonny Styles is just kind of that do it all linebacker that as close to Sean Lee as the Cowboys have had since Sean Lee. Hopefully he could stay healthy because Sean Lee was a dog when he was on the field, but he was just injured for like 60% of the time. But Sonny Styles is an incredible player. If it wasn't for Arvell Reese, he would be far and away the best linebacker in the class by a very, very wide margin, in my opinion. But Sonny Styles would fit this Dallas defense just so well, in my opinion. I love this fit, honestly. I'm actually smiling right now because I love this fit, and it doesn't make sense because I am not a Dallas Cowboys fan. Moving on to 25, a pick that I've made like 3 weeks in a row. I'm just going to keep making it because I love this pick. Colton Hood to the Seattle Seahawks. You want to talk about a team that's going to be in dire need of a cornerback after the year? Really, it's what Devin Witherspoon is like the only cornerback under contract. It's like him and maybe a couple other guys that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But Colton Hood is a Mike McDonald player. He really is. Fits the scheme perfectly. Very, very heady football player. Good ball skills. I think he'd work out really well in Seattle for Mike McDonald. 26, you have the Buffalo Bills. We are going to go with Cassius Howell here. Just makes a lot of sense. Again, the Bills are a team that are going to be barren of pass rushers very, very soon. And Cassius Howell, it's amazing to me, especially as someone that follows A&M very, very closely. It's kind of amazing to me how I let him slip this far. And as a Jet fan, I don't want to face Cassius Howell twice a year. The guy is just he really lacks as a run defender, but he's just so talented as a pass rusher. And what Sean McDermott can do to a player like Cassius Howell is something that I'm not willing to pass up on at this point in the draft class. We're going to take Howell here at 26 at 27. You have the LA Rams. Again, they need a long-term replacement for Rob Havenstein. I think Gennings Dunker is the best natural right tackle that's left on the board. Mean, nasty, really good run defender, a really good run blocker, really good pass protector as well. Just someone that I think that fits that LA Rams nastiness on the offensive line. At 28, I will be quite honest with you guys, this pick stumped me. I was on this pick for a really long time. With Sonny Styles off the board, I didn't really know who I wanted to go here. But I think with the defensive line, with someone like John Franklin Myers probably going to command a little bit more money than the Broncos are willing to spend, I do think that is a hole that is created on the defensive line. And I think Christian Miller makes a lot of sense here. Just a really, really solid overall player. He's going to offer a ton as a disruptor. He's a very, very good run defender. He's not going to get, 10 sacks from the interior of the defensive line, but he's a player that I think it has a interesting frame at 6'4", 315 pounds. He's almost like a beefed up linebacker in a way. He seems like a guy that you don't really think would play from a 3 or 4 point stance quite often, but he's really talented, really athletic, very, very strong. He's a player that I kind of feel like the big wow plays are few and far between, but overall he's just a very, very disruptive force. And with the pass rushers that the Denver Broncos possess with Jonathan Cooper, with Nick Bonito, I think you just need a disruptive force on the interior of the defensive line. So give me Christian Miller here at number 28. At 29, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. Give me a heavy pass rusher here. I need a heavy guy. That just fits that Todd Bowles defensive scheme here. Give me a Quincy Rhodes Jr. here at number 29. 6'6", 275 pounds has been really, really good for the Razorbacks this year. The Razorbacks are a team that have some really intriguing draft prospects. Let me just rattle a few off. Taylon Green, Fernando Carmona, Quincy Rhodes Jr., Julian Neal, Rohan Jones. They have Omega Blake. They have a lot of really intriguing prospects here. And I think Quincy Rhodes has been a very, very slept on edge rusher in a very talented edge rushing class. So we're going to take him at number 29 as a long-term replacement for Anthony Nelson and Hassan Reddick. At number 30, you have the Patriots. And getting rid of Keon White makes me think that long-term they're looking to get some type of impactful edge rusher in the future. And I think Romello Height is that player here. Again, a little undersized, 6'3", 240 pounds, lightning quick off the edge, really, really good intangibles in terms of bend, in terms of just overall power. The speed, the lightning quick speed rush off the edge is kind of overpowering. And I think you have to start somewhere. This is an interesting pick for the Patriots because they're kind of in no man's land here at 7-2. You know, do you go with a wide receiver? Do you go with an offensive lineman? Do you go with an edge rusher? I'm going to go with an edge rusher because Romello Height is here, and I think that he's a dog, and I think this would make a lot of sense for the New England Patriots here. At 31, you have the Philadelphia Eagles here. I think secondary help is imperative for this team's long-term success. Avion Terrell is a player that has played everywhere for the Clemson Tigers this year and has done it very, very well. Good run defender for a cornerback as well, so that's something that's a nice little tidbit of his game. Really solid as a zone cover corner, really solid in man, good overall tackler. I think he makes a lot of sense for the long-term stability of this Philadelphia Eagles team. And then at number 32, I think I made this pick last week. I'm going to make it again. If Jermod McCoy plays for Tennessee this year, or if he skips out on the year and goes to the combine, he is an athletic freak. He's a player that's probably the freakiest athlete for the cornerback position in this class. And, you know, Chris Ballard is a sucker for a freaky athlete. I mean, that much is clear. I honestly think if a kicker ran like a 4.6 40, he'd probably draft him in the first round. It's just the way that he operates, and he hits on a lot of picks. He misses on a lot of picks, but I think Jermod McCoy would be a very, very safe bet here. And the only reason why he falls this far in these mock drafts is because he hasn't played yet, and he is coming off of an ACL tear. But like I've stated in previous videos, ACL tears are not what they used to be. The technology is more advanced than it has been in the last decade, and guys come back stronger and faster and more physical with that repaired ACL. So Jermod McCoy, if he's here, I think would make a lot of sense long term for the Indianapolis Colts. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is my mock draft for the 2026 NFL Draft after Week 9 of the NFL season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope I see you in the next one.